Hi everyone, thanks so much for listening to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff and I'll be your host for the show. Before we bring on tonight's guest, if you've had a Dogman encounter and would like to speak with me about it, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you. If you've had a Sasquatch sighting and would like to be a guest on Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio, please go to bigfooteyewitness.com and submit a report. If you listened to last week's show, you heard our guest Bo talk about the two extremely intense Dogman encounters he had. Well, on tonight's show, he's come back to answer some questions about those experiences. And by the way, his fiance TJ is here too to answer questions as well. Bo and TJ, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. On last week's show, you told us about those two traumatic Dogman encounters you had, Bo. Besides trying to heal from the slash wounds on your ribs, how easy or hard of a time have you had dealing with those experiences?
The first one had been a lot more of a shell shock for me, but knowing that the Bigfoot were out there beforehand, it helped me broaden my perspective on what could be out there. And then the second one, it wasn't as bad, but it was definitely a traumatic event.
Yeah, I'd say it was a traumatic event. Have you been in the woods alone since you had that second encounter that you told us about last week?
I went there the other day to the cabin to actually check in on how the cabin's doing. And everything was still standing, looking good. Seen signs of animals around, so the Dogman, I don't believe he's in the area at that moment anyway. I was hearing quite a bit of natural noise.
Were there any signs that Sasquatch family was still in that area?
Yeah, the creek bank where they frequent beside the cabin showed that they had been walking up and down it. I believe that the male is, I noticed that there is circles walked around the camper and the cabin, both having where you can tell something's been walking around them. And it doesn't seem as a dog would, seems more like a person would. But there is sign that they're still around. And when I was up there, I did hear, I believe, a whoop or two, maybe a knock, but I wasn't around very long.
Yeah, I can't say I blame you for not wanting to stick around. And I'm glad to hear that Sasquatch family is still hanging around that area because, yeah, they're true heroes after what they did. Talking about your first encounter, Bo, do you think the big black one fought the brown one because it was trying to save you from it or for some other reason?
I believe that I was wrong place, wrong time, really. I believe that they'd have fought either way. The brown one hunting me, maybe, or the black one stalking me. Either way, got them closer together. I believe that had something to do with it, but afterwards, the black wolf showing the intelligence of knowing what the gun was and knowing that I basically lowered it away from him. I'm not 100% sure on either way, to be honest with you.
When you were focused on that brown dog, man, thinking how horrible of a situation that must have been, and then suddenly realized you had a bigger black one right behind you that was closer, what was going on in your head when this all was going down?
I thought it was a pack mentality, hunting, and I thought I was the prey. And just so happened that they were more interested in each other than they was me at the time.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. If they weren't, then, yeah, you would have been a Dogman sandwich, unfortunately. Why do you think the black one's behavior changed from seemingly trying to protect you in your first encounter to slashing you in your second one with them?
Well, obviously, me running toward him wasn't the brightest idea. But I believe that he's trying to make himself into the alpha of the area and showing that he's in charge. I know me and you had talked the other day about how if he wanted me dead, I'd be dead. And I believe that it was him smacking me out of the way so he could face off with the Bigfoot. This last time, anyway.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse if he wanted it to be that way. When the big black one ran past you, heading towards the brown one, did he turn his head to look at you, or did he stay focused on the brown one?
When I hit the ground, I was on my back, facing toward him, but he never did look toward me. His eyes was dead set on the other wolf, and when they hit, it was on from there. Afterwards, when he looked at me and smirked, that was about the only time that he actually paid me any attention at that moment.
Yeah, literally he had bigger things on his mind, so that makes sense. When they were on the ground fighting, what kinds of sounds did you hear them make?
If anybody can picture or has ever heard a dog fight, or on Discovery Channel, I watched a lot of, or Animal Planet, the wolves or even a bear almost sounding grunts and growls and whimpers like a dog would. But it was a lot of flesh ripping and punches landing, thudding, and it was also a lot of impact on the ground. So quite a bit of noise, but it was a lot of unrecognizable to very specific sound that they actually emitted.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that must have been like to stand there and watch all this go on, and you had to be wondering, okay, if one of them wins, then what next? Is it going to turn its attention on me or just leave the area? That's not a good thing to have to worry about.
You're definitely right there. I know whenever they had got done fighting and the big black wolf looked at me, I already had the rifle up, safety off, and that's when my brain kind of started working on an exit strategy. Granted, I probably should have took the advantage on them fighting and got out of there, but I was just in shock and awe of not being able to even move. I mean, truthfully, felt like I was concreted to the ground.
Oh, I'm sure you did. When the fight ended and the big black dog man turned its attention back on you, have you ever been that afraid in your life?
Once, when I was younger, my sister almost drowned, and that was probably the only time I've ever felt that amount of fear. I've had a couple close calls myself. When the brakes went out on a truck with TJ with me and her being 8 months pregnant and going down a huge hill, for some reason, I tend to react better in pressure situations where I just have to react.
Yeah, well, that's about as intense of a situation that I could think of, so I'm glad you responded the way you did and kept your head. How do you think that deer got into the bed of your pickup that day, and why do you think it was put there?
You know, I read a couple of the comments, and I've had this conversation with a couple people trying to figure out why or how it ended up in the bed of my truck. And the way that it was bit was like a dog would, but in the other sense, I don't know of a dog man leaving a kill as more of just devouring it. But the Sasquatch has never killed a deer and just left it theirself either. I know every time we've seen one of them, it's been completely stripped clean, bones, organs, everything.
I wasn't there to see that deer carcass, but it does sound like it must have been the black dog man that left it for you, and not a Sasquatch. TJ, what were your thoughts when Bo showed up where you work with blood on him and told you about what had happened to him?
Well, at first he didn't tell me what had happened to him whenever he showed up at my job. Really, I was supposed to have worked probably another 5-6 hours after he showed up, but Luckily, my boss was also my mom's boyfriend. Just the look on his face, my boss knew, hey, he doesn't need to be driving. You need to take him home. You can just come back. It was only after we got home that he told me what had happened. I figured, he just, like usual, killed a deer, got a hog, something, like most people do, gut it and everything while you're there. It's a lot easier to gut it and bleed it out while you're in the woods. So I figured that's what it was, because he's come home many times from a hunt with blood all over his face from gutting a pig or whatever. But whenever we got home and he told me what had happened, honestly, at first I kind of thought that he was just playing a trick on me, just messing with me, because for some reason he likes to do things like that. He thinks, scaring me is funny, and I don't understand why. I don't understand why any guy would think that that's funny, but apparently it amuses you people. But the look on his face, I could tell that he wasn't joking after a couple minutes. Usually, if he is, I can see like a little smirk in the corner of his mouth. But there was no smirk. There was no nothing. It was just like dead serious. So I knew that he was being honest with me. So honestly, I kind of freaked out myself, wondering how in the world he's even alive at all. So, I guess I just kind of wondered how he was even standing in front of me at the moment, because anything that I've ever heard of like that is prey. So, they're wanting a food source.
I know you said that it wasn't uncommon for him to come home after hunting and have blood on him because maybe he had gutted a hog, like you said, or been hunting something else, but it's less than ideal to have some guy chomping on his meatloaf in the diner and have Bo come waltzing in with blood on him. That's not exactly what you'd want to see. For Bo to come into the diner with that blood on him, didn't that right there make you think in your mind that maybe there's something out of the ordinary going on here?
Well, no, not really, because where we live at, it's called Rocky Top. Where I worked at the diner, it was Rocky Top, Tennessee. It used to be Lake City, Tennessee, but there's a lot of hunters around there. It wasn't uncommon for hunters to come in before or after going on a hunt. So, it really wasn't that uncommon for somebody to come in with a little bit of blood on them, but just the look on his face is kind of what gave it away to me, because he doesn't really get scared at anything. So the look on his face is what kind of gave it away to me, and really anybody that was in the diner. Because, anybody that was sitting in the diner at the time kind of thought the same thing. He had just got back from hunting, wanted to grab a bite to eat before he went home to clean up. But the look on his face is what gave it away. I've never seen him that scared, other than whenever the brakes went out on the truck, and it was a scary situation then. And after we finally got the truck to come to a stop, which was crazy anyway, how it even happened, I don't know. I just know I was scared to death. I had my eyes closed pretty much the entire time. But just the look on his face, I could tell something was wrong, and so could everyone else that was there. It's a small town, so most of the people that were in the diner have actually known him since he was little. They know his dad, they know his mother, they know his family. It's a really small town, so pretty much everyone knows everybody. But just the look on his face really is what kind of gave it away.
To find out dogmen are real and living in a woods near you is almost always a life-altering event. How much time did you spend in the woods before the day when you had that encounter with Bo?
Oh gosh, I have spent a lot of time in the woods. Growing up, pretty much, once you turn about 8 years old, you get your first gun and you go on your first hunting trip. Regardless of whether you're a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. My dad always wanted boys, but he ended up having 2 girls. But anybody that asks him, are you disappointed that you didn't have any boys? His exact words are, have you met my daughters? They could probably beat up your son, to be honest. So I do have 2 boys. They just, don't look the same as normal boys. But I've grown up hunting all my life. It's just like a family thing. It really is. But finding out that there were dogmen, I mean, I always kind of had a sense that there are other things in this world that people can't explain or people are scared to admit, but I'd never really seen one. I mean, I've seen, like the body of a deer laying there, most hunters are not going to leave a deer laying. The only way a hunter is going to leave a deer laying is if they couldn't track it properly. But it just always made me wonder what else could be out there, because where we live at, there are a lot of woods. So, you can't really explore all of it. I mean, you can, it'll take you a while, but there's a lot of holes and ditches and caverns and hollers that you cannot get into. So, I mean, I've always suspected that there were other things out there. I had just never seen anything before.
TJ, do you see it as a blessing that you now know dogmen are out there, or do you see it as a curse because of how it's changed the way you look at the woods?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I'm a little bit on both sides. In a sense, I would rather not know that there are dogmen, but in a sense, I'm really glad that I do know, because now, I mean, I know kind of what to expect, I guess you could say, and what to do if it was to ever happen again. And for someone who doesn't know about him, doesn't believe in him, I mean, they're going to be in a lot more panic than I guess you could say I would if we came across one again.
Have you been back in the woods after you had that experience with Bo?
No, actually I haven't.
Well, I can understand why. When you had your second run-in with that big black dogman Bo, did you actually think you were going to be able to slow him down with your Bowie knife?
Well, I know my plan was to basically slow him down as much as possible. When the Sasquatch hollered and we stopped, it gave us a little bit more time and space. But after the first swing and I got him, I thought, this isn't going to do much to him, but it'll give her more time to get to the truck.
No, you wanted me to get away.
True. Wanting her to basically get in the truck and go, because when I told her to go, and what I told her was to leave, was to get out of here, and I'm just lucky that she come back for me, honestly.
Yeah, that you are. Well, you're lucky also that Sasquatch family was there to help you. When he slashed at you and missed, how close was he to you?
I boxed for a while. I fought in the cage. He was about as close as any other fighter would be. And when he swung the second time, I done a back step again, and that's when he got my shirt. But the third time, he kind of stepped in a bit more, and he connected. So, about as far as any two people fighting could get, or would be.
If he was that close to you, how do you think he could have missed, considering how fast and agile they are, not to mention their amazing reach?
I have no clue, to be honest with you. As I said, I was acting on pure instinct.
He didn't want you.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. That's what I'm convinced it is. Maybe he was swiping at you, but he didn't want to connect. He didn't connect until he wanted to with that third swipe with his right paw. Or right hand.
And that's only because I think really he just wanted the Bigfoot family. He wanted the Bigfoot family, and we were in between him and the Bigfoot family. And I think that's why Bo only got hurt what he did. I mean, the Dogman could have tore him to pieces easily. But I think that he really didn't want him. He wanted the Bigfoot family. I mean, the smaller Bigfoot, the children, they would have been easy prey for him, is what I think.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I do think dogmen prey on smaller Sasquatch sometimes.
Yeah.
I've actually noticed when the larger male and younger Sasquatch have hunted together, the dogman, when he would be in the area afterwards, the trail cams would get turned with the Bigfoot, but would be destroyed with the Dogman. So I'd be able to kind of see that it was turned, and then if I went back later that day and it was destroyed, I noticed that he's tracking and following in with the Bigfoot again. But the Dogman had truly walked in right toward the trees that they'd marked, the area that they'd had a lot of scent on. So I believe that they was either trying to, assert his dominance or looking for food.
Yeah, I'll bet you're right on that. Bo, did you think he was trying to kill you when he swiped at you, or did you think he was just trying to get some message across to you?
The first one, it was more of, I think it was a reaction of where I was at. And when I stepped in and sliced at him, I flexed out a little bit more. He kind of tensed up. And then the second swipe, I was stepping back. And I believe that's what saved me there. But the third one, when he actually stepped toward me, it was, rib breaking and pretty good slash. But I believe most of it was him just wanting me out of his way.
We'll never know for sure, but that's what it sure seems like. TJ, what kinds of thoughts were going through your head when you were watching all that go on?
To be honest, my first thought was, I can't really believe that this is happening. He had already seen him once before. And I was just thinking, what are the odds of having a second encounter, especially this close to each other. And to see the Sasquatch plus the Dogman, it just kind of blew my mind, really. But honestly, I was scared more than anything, because I was thinking, the love of my life and the father of my child is about to get killed because he's trying to take on something that is twice his size. And why, I have no idea, because he's crazy, I'm guessing. But honestly, I was just mostly scared that, he was going to be torn to pieces. And then there I am, stuck. Not really stuck. I could have gotten the truck and left, but I'm not going to leave him. But I don't think that he wanted us. If he did, he could have easily had us. Very, very easily. Like you said, they're quick, they're agile. They really are. They're pure muscle. So if he wanted us, he could have had us. He could have eaten us easily, no problem. It would have been like a little snack for him before he got to the Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, there's no denying that. Understand, TJ, I'm not saying you did the wrong thing when you only fired one shot at the Dogman. I'm just curious, why didn't you fire more shots?
Honestly, I don't know myself. Now thinking about it, I should have just emptied the clip. But I guess at that time, I was just trying to show him, like, hey, back off, do whatever you want, go away, go eat whatever else you want, but you're not about to eat my fiance. I guess that's what I was thinking.
Bo's a lucky man to have you. I've got to give it to you.
Yeah, most women probably would have done what he told them to, jump in the truck and leave, but I couldn't leave him behind. I couldn't do that. There's no way. Either we're both going together or we're both gonna die together. One or the other. That's just the way I felt about it.
Well, like I said, it's awfully impressive you stuck by him and helped protect him. I'm impressed.
He would have done the same for me, so I figure that's the least I can do is do the same for him. The exact same thing that he would have done for me. He put himself in between the Dogman and me to try to let me get away. So if he can do that, then I can.
Well, like I said, that's awfully impressive. When you saw that the shot you fired at him had little effect, were you starting to second guess whether you should have pulled the trigger in the first place?
Yeah. Definitely. Honestly, I was thinking I probably just really ticked him off. And he's definitely gonna eat us now. He probably would have if it hadn't been for the Sasquatch family. I think maybe that's the only reason why he didn't jump as quick as he could have. I mean, he could have had both of us within a split second after I fired the shot. But I think that's the only reason why he didn't is because he was outnumbered, outmatched, I guess you could say.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. How close were you to Bo and that Dogman when they were facing off?
Well, at first, whenever it first started to happen, I was, I don't know, maybe 5 feet away, and they told me to run and leave, but I ran to the truck and grabbed the gun out of it because, like I said, there was no way that I was going to leave him. And I guess the truck was maybe, I don't know what, like 15 feet away?
About 15, 20 yards away.
Something like that.
He wasn't too far from the creek bank, but in that moment, I'm sure it felt like a mile.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. But, I mean, I was close enough to see and hear and take in everything that was happening. But at the same time, whenever something like that is happening, I guess, the adrenaline does kick in. And it's kind of like everything slows down for some reason. I don't know why. But when you're in a situation where it's kind of like life or death, I guess you could say, for some reason, time slows down. I don't understand how that happens because physically it cannot happen. Time does not literally slow down, but it feels like it whenever you're in a situation like that. So it felt like the whole thing lasted 3 hours when in reality it maybe only lasted 30, 45 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it did seem like it lasted forever, but thank goodness it didn't.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah, I'd say. TJ, I know Bo had, but had you seen those Sasquatch before that day?
Yeah, I'd seen them maybe once or twice, but it wasn't like up close and personal, anything like that. It was from far away. And most of the time, whenever I had seen them, it was dark outside. So honestly, you couldn't tell whether it was actually a Sasquatch or if it was just another hunter. It was usually getting dark by the time I had seen them. But I didn't really think another hunter would be out that late hunting, especially in New River. You don't really go hunting that late in New River. So I kind of had a sense that they were Sasquatch, and the fact that they never really came that close to the cabin. But they I guess they got brave the longer that we were there, and the more they got to know us and see that we weren't going to hurt them, we weren't a threat to them. They slowly got closer and closer. They would come a little closer each time.
I see, so you had seen them before.
Yes.
You said you were only 5 feet away from Bo when you fired that shot. If you were that close in on what was going on, what was your view of the situation? Where was the Dogman compared to Bo and vice versa?
Well, Bo was a little to my left. So whenever I took the shot, Bo was a little further left than the Dogman. So whenever I grabbed the gun out of the truck, I ran a little closer because I didn't want to shoot from the truck. I figured the closer I am, the better. So I ran a little bit closer to about where I was whenever it all first started to happen, which was about 5, 6 feet away. I didn't want to get too close because I knew if I did and he seen the gun, more than likely he was going to smack at me next. And I'm a lot smaller than Bo is, so he probably would have broken me in half. So I just got as close as I could without getting hurt to fire the shot. But the Sasquatch were behind Bo and I.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I can only imagine what it must have been like to just stand there and be involved in all that. Wow, that is rough.
Yeah, I could definitely go through the rest of my life without ever doing that again.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, I'll bet. Bo, if the female Sasquatch and younger ones wouldn't have helped the Alpha Sasquatch fight the Black Dogman that day, how do you think the Alpha Sasquatch would have fared?
I know when the dogman had got him to his knees and was more on top of him. I had pulled the rifle up and I was going to try to help him as much as I could. Even if it was a split second distraction, in a fight, that's all it takes to land a blow that could, turn it around for you. So that was basically the only thought that was running through my mind was, he come to help me. What can I do to help him?
Well, like I said, thank goodness they were there. If they weren't there, then who knows how that would have turned out. Though, have you seen any of those Sasquatch since he had that second encounter?
Being only in the woods once since then, I haven't seen them since. The tracks is about the only thing that I think I've seen. Trying to remember here. The big male, he leaves a specific kind of, I don't know if he gets bored and stacks or if it's just comfortable for him, but he'll lay out down limbs in a certain way and lay up against them. And I've seen that, but I haven't seen them.
Well, I hope you get to see them again someday at least. Hope that's not the last time you ever get to see them. But as I'm sure you know, a lot of the people who listened to last week's show have been clamoring about how they want to see pics of your slash wounds. Early this week, you sent those pictures to me and I have them posted now on the YouTube version of tonight's show. What's your healing process been like trying to recover from those wounds?
Very slow. I work with concrete and I get quite dirty at work. So when I come home, TJ helps me out a lot. And again, she's such a blessing to have. And she's helped me be able to nurse my broke ribs, to be able to doctor on my cuts when they sore and I didn't want to mess with them. She pushed me to make sure they was cleaned out so I didn't end up with staph or anything like that. It's still a slow process, but it is getting quite a bit better.
Those scratches have to be better, but they still look pretty angry to me. Wow.
The scratches themselves, they were very red and angry looking, as you'd say. And that right there, we wanted to make sure that they kept clean and got everything out of them as much as possible.
Which didn't help with the healing.
Right.
I mean, it did help with the healing, but it didn't. I mean, keeping them clean helped him heal, but after him working every day and being covered with concrete dust and having to come home and me clean them out, I guess you could say it irritated them a lot more than someone who ended up with the same wounds but stayed home and nursed them the entire time. No, he went back to work, 3 days later after it happened, which he's the only one working right now, so his money is what pays all the bills. So, I mean, I couldn't really get mad at him for going back to work, but it just worried me with the work that he does, working with the concrete. He makes veneer stones and stones that people put in their walkways, stuff like that. So he's constantly lifting the pallets of stones off and on, which doesn't help. Whenever it had first happened, it was making them kind of bust back open. And then him coming home and them being dirty and having to clean them, it didn't really help them heal as quickly as they could have, because with all the dust in them, I had to make sure that I cleaned them fairly well, because I did not want him to get an infection or something like that, because my grandmother was a nurse. I have family members that were nurses and stuff, and any nurse or doctor will tell you if you don't keep open wounds like that clean, if you get an infection, even if you get the infection and you clean it afterwards, it's not going to do very well if the infection has already gotten into your bloodstream and went septic. So I just wanted to make sure that they stayed clean. Even bandaging them up before he went to work didn't really do much of a difference, because the dust from the concrete that he mixes up is so small and so fine. I don't know how, but it always found its way through the bandages every time.
Well, considering the fact that it didn't get infected, you must have done an amazing job cleaning them up, so good job on that.
Yeah, he hated me afterwards for a few weeks because I'm sure it burned and stung and hurt really bad. I'm sure it did, but I would rather him be in pain for 30 minutes after I clean him than to end up with an infection and have to go to the hospital and have them cut open and drained and things like that. I'd rather that not happen.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be good.
No.
TJ, what kind of time have you had dealing with the emotional trauma from that encounter?
Well, I mean, I've had some nightmares and stuff. I kind of try to stay away from the woods. I mean, since it's happened, I've not really wanted to go back in the woods. You know, like wake up one Saturday and be like, hey, let's go hunting today. I was all about going hunting, fishing, things like that. But really, I've tried to stay away from the woods if I could. But I know that, that's not going to do me any good. I can't stay out of the woods for the rest of my life. I know I'm eventually going to have to get back out in the woods, but I guess it's just kind of been like a slow process of me doing it. I mean, I've had nightmares about it since it happened. There's nights whenever I can only sleep for an hour at a time. I'll sleep for like an hour, wake up, I'm awake for 2 or 3 hours, go back to sleep for an hour, wake back up. So it's kind of got like my sleeping like really off, which doesn't help any. The nightmares, of course. I mean, some nights after having a nightmare, I don't even want to go back to sleep because of it.
Well, it really hasn't been that long since it happened, so yeah, this is all fresh in your head. I just hope that before long that you're able to move past all those problems and start to sleep normally again and do what you need to do without so many hang-ups. But yeah, what you're going through right now, that's totally normal and pretty much expected.
Yeah, I pretty much, if I even hear a noise outside my house, I have to have Bo get up with a flashlight and grab the gun and go outside and check it out. I mean, I know 9 times out of 10, it's probably just, like a little small creature, like a raccoon or something. We have raccoons, possums, skunks around our house. Plus, we have a bunch of stray cats around here and some stray dogs. So I'm sure 9 times out of 10, that's probably what the noise is something like that. But it still freaks me out. And I mean, I don't know. I guess I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, after an experience like that, anytime you hear something go bump in the night outside, yeah, you're going to wonder. You're definitely going to wonder. Bo, for the listeners out there who are jealous of you and other eyewitnesses because they want to have a Dogman encounter of their own, what would you say to them?
A lot of people look at the Dogman and think that they're just some evil killing machine. And some are. Don't get me wrong, they're very dangerous. But if he wanted me dead, I'd be dead. I wouldn't purposely put myself in that situation if I didn't have to. And my thing to anybody would be, use your head. Don't create excess danger. That could end your life very quickly. The same with the Sasquatch, they helped us and the smaller ones kind of spooked me once. They've come close and they've not showed any aggression toward me, but to somebody else, they could break them in half. It's a lot of using your head and knowing what an animal's body language would say. But as far as I'd see, the Dogman, definitely keep your distance and pay attention to everything. Because it may not just be one. And they are honestly a true alpha predator. And it would not be a good idea for anybody to go looking for something and not be prepared for what they find. Sometimes it's better to believe and not be in the situation yourself as far as being able to still learn and respect them. But if they do see them, don't approach them and show them respect is basically the biggest thing I have to say about that.
That all sounds like good advice. TJ, how about you? What would you say to them?
Well, for people that are jealous and wish that they had an encounter with a dog man, don't wish that. Seriously. I mean, don't wish that. It wasn't as fun as it sounds. I mean, to some people it may sound like it was, like a party on Saturday night. It was not. It was not fun at all. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. I would not. Because that was a very scary situation. I mean, it's a fight or flight thing. And depending on what you do, it could get you killed. I mean, if we had ran, he could have seen us as prey and attacked us. And Bo fighting him, that could have made him mad. I mean, that could have made him tear either of us into pieces, actually. As for being jealous about it, I wouldn't be jealous about it, because like I said, it is very scary. I mean, I had always thought that there were things like that out there, and had always been like, I wish I could see that, or, I wish I could see a Sasquatch, or see a Dogman, or a vampire, or, whatever. But after it happening, I wish I had not wished for that, because it is not as fun as it sounds. It really isn't. I mean, and depending on what type of person you are, it could end up getting you hurt or killed. I mean, it's very dangerous. It really is. I mean, it's not like we were able to walk up and pet it, feed it some kibble and bits. It wasn't like that. It's not like having a pet dog. It's something that really wants to eat you more than it does anything. And anything like that, I would not want to be around. And like Bo said, if you're ever out in the woods and you feel uncomfortable, you're hearing wildlife, and then all of a sudden everything goes quiet, you need to watch your surroundings, keep an eye on what's going on. Don't turn your back to anything ever. I mean, Bo nursing broken ribs and slashed up ribs was not very fun at all. Plus, if, you work, depending on what kind of work you do, it just makes it that much more difficult. I mean, how he went back to work as soon as he did, I don't know, but he did. Me, I probably would have been laid in the bed for a couple weeks. But for anybody that wishes that they could see a dog man, that's fine. If you want to wish for that, that's fine. But just wish that you see it from a distance. Because being that close is not a picnic at all. It's really not.
Yeah, I can think of better ways to seek a thrill than having a dogman encounter. I couldn't agree more.
Exactly.
Well, guys, it's about time for us to get out of here. But before we do you have any closing comments you'd like to share? Bo, please go first.
On that last subject, I got to thinking, the dogman wasn't wanting to kill me at that moment. He wanted me out of his way. And when he batted me away, it broke my ribs and cut me real bad. And that's him just getting me out of his way, swatting a fly. So you got one hunting you or wanting to be in that situation, it could definitely turn out extremely bad. And in general, I'd say use your head in situations like that, because that's the only thing that saved us.
That's well said. TJ, how about you? Do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
Just for anybody that has ever seen one, I completely understand how you feel. I understand, if you're scared, I understand that completely. And for anyone who hasn't seen one, I hope and pray to God that you never do. But if you do, like Bo said, keep your head about you, because that could be the difference between, you living or you not walking out of there at all.
Bo and TJ, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing the details of that experience with us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate you allowing us to be able to get some of this off our chest and maybe be able to help somebody else with the same situation, because hearing certain stories has helped me want to be able to try to move past it. And you've been a big help as well, trying to help us come to terms with why it happened and what happened. And besides our perspective, having an outside look at it has definitely helped.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for. And if you ever do need me in the future, please do let me know. But having said that, thanks again so much for your time. Have a great night. If you've had a Dogman encounter of your own and would like to speak with me, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you.